Let's welcome in our guests who are joining us this morning. We have Mayuresh Joshi of Angel Broking, Vikas Sethi of Sethi Finmart, Sumit Bagaria of Choice Broking with us this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to NDTV Profit. Vikas, we've already seen a big move in all bank names the day earlier, notably the PSU banks. Now, with this ordinance getting the go-ahead from the president, do you think prospects for banks are looking even better? Do you think the stock prices are headed even higher? Or do you think all of this has already been built into the price?
Good morning, Anisha. Good morning, Pankaj. As far as PSU banks are concerned, although we have seen a good rally over the past few days in anticipation of something like this, the NPA, the Banking Regulation Act being amended, but I feel even the performance of these banks is likely to improve in the coming quarters. Looking at the kind of results which were declared by Indian Bank, I think PSU banks would perform better this time for the March quarter, and that should also be considered as far as their stock prices are concerned. So although they've gone up, I think there is some more steam left, but since we are at an all-time high, traders need to be a bit cautious. The rally could be spooked by any negative outcome as far as French elections are concerned or geopolitical tensions which are there. But if one has a medium to long-term point of view, I think all these PSU banks which are quoting at pretty close to or less than their book values would be a good buy. So I would still recommend a buy for investors, but for traders, it's time to be a bit cautious.
All right, time to be a little cautious for the traders. Mayuresh, how do you see this development? You know, NPA problem has been festering for some time, and the RBI has come out with ways and means, the SDR, the Q4R, but you know, it's still just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't really heard of big resolution coming through. Do you think this is going to now start the resolution? And while there is a lot of optimism that the books will get cleaned, won't profits of banks come under pressure if they have to take the haircuts?
So largely again, Anisha, morning, it's going to be a very slow and gradual process in the entire scheme of things and the implementation thereof. Having said that, our own sense is that it was priced in to a certain extent that the presidential nod will come through. But how the consortium probably works in resolving this bad asset issue is going to take some time. So I think it's not going to be an overnight process. It's going to be a lengthy, drawn-out process. But yes, I think there are steps in the right direction. The central government, RBI, is working in terms of resolution. And if we are getting some definite steps over the next few months in terms of identification of assets which has already been done, how do you probably take care of those stressed assets and get them on your books or the recovery process thereof? I think that's a huge positive for the banking industry as a whole. So yes, I think the banking industry probably buoyant in terms of expectations of those moves. But I'll still be keeping a very stock-specific approach. I think the stocks have moved up. The price-to-book valuations for a few banks have gone through the roof. So in that sense itself, my own expectations are selectively large private sector banks, the large public sector banks, and very, very few niche small private sector banks. So I think I'll not be going after each and every public sector bank. I think the larger public sector banks still make sense because they're probably the leaders of the consortium and they'll benefit the most in terms of this entire asset issue getting resolved.
Right. Sumit, Vikas said that the rally may be nearing its end, but traders can take their bets. And these smaller and mid-cap PSU banks have had a heady rally. They've had blowout moves. Any of these kind of stocks from the PSU space that you think are good for more, that people can still trade in? What would be your top bets there?
Hi, good morning, Anisha. Well, we feel that in next couple of months, we are going to see a same type of move in most of the PSU banks which you have seen in last couple of weeks. I think frontliner stocks as well as the frontliner PSU banking stocks as well as the smaller banks can perform well in future. Immediately looking at the momentum, it seems that SBI, Bank of Baroda, Canara Bank, PNB, Union Bank, Bank of India, all these stocks are looking very good on charts. I think immediately if anyone wants to have a position, then they can have positions in SBI and Bank of Baroda. They are looking very good on charts. They have given a breakout, and after a long time we have seen such continuous move in these stocks. There is a possibility because of such sharp upward move which we have seen in last couple of weeks. Some profit booking can be seen from present levels. But in these corrections or in this profit booking, one should initiate long positions for a longer time horizon of next at least 3 to 6 months time horizon, because from here on there is a possibility that we will see a small downfall and then we will see a move of around almost 40 to 50% from present levels. Stocks like SBI, Bank of Baroda, Union Bank and Canara Bank are looking very good to me. In fact, those who want to invest for next 3 to 6 months time horizon, they can invest at CMP also. And for traders, one can maintain a proper stop losses and can initiate positions for a trading perspective.
All right. So those are the views coming in from our guest on banks. And now let's talk about the top picks that you have, because the markets remain buoyant and are perhaps going to be trading again at new lifetime highs. Mayuresh, let's take your top picks for the day.
So again, I think I've been very positive on corporate-facing banks. ICICI Bank remains one of the top draw, with the kind of commentary that the management has given. The stress on the book should come down very, very slowly and gradually. But again, I think the second half should see significant improvement on that one. So Q1, Q2 might be slow and gradual, but the second half of FY18 probably will mark the beginning of the cycle where the asset quality cycle is turning for the better and credit growth picking up. So I think the obvious reaction is going to be return ratios improving. So ICICI Bank remains one of my top picks within the banking space. Within the NBFC space, again, housing finance companies is something that I've always liked. Diwan Housing has come out with a good set of numbers with the kind of funds that has come through on its book of 2,000 crores from the sale of the insurance subsidiary business. The book value itself gets accreted to the tune of around 60-65 odd rupees. Add to that the leverage, which can expect it to go up to around 10-11 odd times. I think it's a clear case scenario for 20-25% earnings growth. NIMs expected to get maintained, asset quality pressures going down and return ratios improving. So Diwan Housing is something that I'll continue to prefer. And within the cap good space, again, I think Cummins India, I think if one really gets this stock on an 8 to 10% decline over the next few weeks, I think that will be an excellent entry point for long-term investors. A 10 to 11% domestic growth, you're probably looking at the genset business doing exceedingly well. You're looking at other areas like telecom, power, probably getting explored and forayed into by the company. Good scope of export orders coming through from the parent. ROEs, ROCs in excess of 25%. Capex already done to the tune of 400 crores over the past few years. Very minimal Capex needs, dividend payout in excess of 60%. So I think it's a story on the Capex cycle which I think is expected to turn around in Q4. So I think any decline onto the stock to the tune of 8-10%, as I said, becomes a very good entry point for Cummins India for long-term investors.
Right. Vikas, what are your topics?
Yeah, Anisha, my top 3 trading ideas today would be, the first would be an IRB Infra. I'm bullish on the stock. The stock has been doing well over the past few days, and I think ever since the company announced the launch of its InvIT, most of the stocks in the infra space are in focus. And today being the last day of the InvIT issue, I think we would get to hear by the end of the day that it has got a tremendous or a very strong response, and that would lead to a spike in the stock of IRB. So I have a target of 272 rupees on IRB for today, so I would recommend a buy on IRB. The second stock would be public sector bank, PNB. Most of the public sector banks have been doing well with the kind of positive news flow which we have. The sector should do well today, and with the kind of strong momentum which was witnessed in PNB in the last hour of trade, I think the stock should do well today, and I have a target of 185 rupees on PNB for today. And my third idea would be a real estate stock. The name of the stock is Oberoi Realty. Most of the good quality real estate stocks have been buzzing ever since the RERA has been implemented, and Oberoi Realty continues to be a very good stock within the space with a pretty healthy and strong balance sheet. So I think it reported its numbers yesterday after the markets closed, and the numbers were simply impressive. So I see a good spike in the stock of Oberoi Realty. My target for the day would be 415 rupees on Oberoi Realty today.
All right. Samit, what about your top picks?
Anisha, my top 3 picks for the day. First one is Adani Port. Adani Port has given a breakout, and now looking at the chart, it seems that from here on we can see upside rally in which we can see levels of around 350-360 as an immediate target for the counter. For a trading perspective, one can initiate long positions in Adani Port at CMP with a small stop loss to be placed at around 328 levels on lower side for the upside target of 350 and 360 levels in next couple of days. The second pick for the day is Grasim. Grasim is looking good on charts. It has given a breakout. It's trading at higher levels, but still looking at the chart, it seems that on higher side we can see a move in the counter till 1250 levels. For a trading perspective, one can initiate long position in Grasim at CMP with a stop loss to be placed at around 1170 levels on lower side. If there is a dip of 10 to 15 points from present levels, then that would be a very good buying opportunity for the upside target of 1250 levels in next couple of days. The third pick for the day is from banking space, and that is Axis Bank. Yesterday we saw a good move in the counter. Now looking at the chart, it seems that on higher side we can see levels of around 540 and 550 as an immediate target for the counter. For a trading perspective, one can initiate long positions in Axis Bank at CMP with a stop loss to be placed at around 505 levels on lower side for the upside target of 540 and 550 levels in next couple of days.
Right. Sumit, you could also just tell us your view on ICICI Bank. That was the top gainer yesterday. Because of the banking news, do you think it can go up further today?
Yes, absolutely, Pankaj. It can give a very good move because the counter has given a breakout. Now, only concern is that it has a psychological resistance at around 300 levels. A closing above 300 would be required for a upside move of 10% from present levels. If a closing above 300 is seen in ICICI Bank, then we can see a move till 325 or 330 levels in next couple of weeks. I think the overall structure for the bank is positive. It has given a breakout. If there is a dip from present levels of 8 to 10 points, then that can be used as a good buying opportunity. And if anyone wants to initiate a fresh long position at CMP, then they can go ahead and initiate the long positions, because as soon as 300 level is taken, as soon as 300 is taken away with volumes, we will see a one-way rally in the counter till 325, 330 levels in next couple of weeks.
Right. So even if it is around 300 level, one can start buying in a in a phased manner.
Yes, absolutely. In a staggered manner, one can start buying and start accumulating ICICI Bank at current levels.
Right. Mayuresh, quickly just before markets open, say if the NPA resolution ordinance is something that markets would believe, there is a lot of value in some of the PSU large cap names.
Well, absolutely. As I said, I think the large cap names is something that I'll prefer because the consortium probably moves with the large caps being an integral part. So yes, State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda is something that I've always preferred. I continue preferring these stocks over the long term.
Right. Just expecting the markets open anytime soon. We should start getting the first prizes. Banking stocks will be in focus. A lot of stocks will also react to their results. That's ICICI Bank for you. Straight away 300 rupees, but I think it's seeing a correction after that. Axis Bank is flat, blinking into red and green. In fact, the market is blinking into red and green. So you have a 9-point decline for the market. That's SBI. SBI is looking on the positive side. Bank of Baroda is up about a quarter of a rupee, so not much in terms of changes that one can identify. PNB about 1% on the higher side, 181, 182. Remember, some of these banking names are yet to declare numbers. Names like ICICI, Axis, which are also a part of the corporate banking system, have already declared numbers. So they're having a second day in a row after the numbers that they have declared. Axis Bank absolutely flat at this point of time, about 50 paisa here and there for Axis Bank. BOI down about 1% or so. So I don't really think that markets have taken this on a positive note, at least for the large names. We've not seen any major movement that's happening. So that's what the banking space is doing right now. Let's pull up Oberoi Realty. That's up around 3.5% around 408 for Oberoi Realty. That's a company that has declared numbers, strong set of numbers, and that's clearly being applauded by the market. IOC is up close to about 1.6. No news flow for IOC. 442 for Indian Oil Corporation. Interglobe Aviation is up 1%. Actually, this one is interesting. So you had crude which melted down around 5% overnight, and that's a direct cost benefit for names like Interglobe, names like Jet, names like SpiceJet. In fact, their overall sensitivity to what happens to crude is very important. That's Interglobe Aviation for you, 2% higher. Names like Jet, some of the other names could also be in focus. You have L&T Finance Holding. You will hear Jet is up around 3% today. You have L&T Finance Holding, which declared numbers. You'll hear from the management soon. It's up around 1% or so. So that's also a name which is doing well right now. You have Canada Bank now, which is going up around 1% or so. SBI is now at the day's high. So you're probably with a lag effect, but there is some buying into these PSU banking name. That's probably got to do with the ordinance that we were just talking about with our guest. Imami is down close to 3.5-4% but that's a results reaction for you. Imami, let's just pull up that one. Walk Hard is reacting to the numbers as well. So both these names are reacting to numbers. Tata Communication is reacting to numbers. So it's down around 2% or so. That's also a name which declared numbers. There are a lot of one-off in Tata Communication numbers. It's difficult to understand that, what essentially company has done. But on an adjusted basis, the numbers look broadly fine. I don't really think that there would be a lot of concern regarding Tata Communication. Anisha, any other names on the volume side that you can pick up?
Pankaj, there are many stocks that are buzzing, but they are not the usual names that we've heard. Now, Sadbab Infrastructure Projects is up 10%, Euro Ceramics is up 5%, Uttam Value Steels is up 5%, and so is Sunil High Tech. You mentioned the aviation stocks, so both SpiceJet and Jet Airways on high volumes have moved up. Perhaps, on the move that they'll benefit on the cost side because of the meltdown in crude oil prices. The PSU bank names are looking good. They have gains about 1% or so. SBI, Canada Bank, PNB on high volumes. So they're the ones doing well. On the losing side, we have REI Agro now down 5%. Its chairman has been arrested by the CBI in the case of loan fraud. HCC is down 4%, Wockhardt is down 3%, and ONGC is down 2%. And of course, some of the metal names like Vedanta and Hindalco continue with the meltdown that we saw a day earlier, while the markets are moving up. The pressure is now building on some of these metal names. What would you do, Samit, with Vedanta and Hindalco? Globally, commodities seem out of favor. Do you think they're headed lower from here on?
Some more correction can be seen from present levels because the stock is given a breakdown, especially if you talk about Vedanta. There is a possibility that some more correction can be seen from present levels. Immediately the stock has small support at around 225 levels, and if 225 is taken away, then there is a possibility that in short term we can see levels of around 220 to 215 as an immediate target for Vedanta. But overall, in such corrections, one should initiate long positions for the time horizon of next 3 to 6 months, because overall the structure is looking positive. This is just the short-term correction or a knee-jerk reaction in the metal stocks which we are seeing. So I think if there is a dip of around 10 points from present levels, then that should be used as a buying opportunity for the time horizon of 3 to 6 months. And if anyone wants to initiate a trading bet, then they can initiate sell positions at CMP with the stop loss to be placed at 231 levels in Vedanta for the immediate downside till 220 and 215 levels.
Right. Sumit, what will be your call on Jet Airways? With crude oil prices going down, that stock is in focus. Do you think it can give returns from here on as well?
Yes, absolutely. Jet is looking strong on charts. Jet has already given a breakout, and if you see the structure of Jet Airways, it has been giving a one-way move from the levels of 350. I think from here on, if anyone wants to initiate a position, then that should be on buy side, because still the stock is looking strong. And today, if we see, it has given the breakout above 540 levels, which was the high. Almost 15 to 20 days back. Now, closing above 540 in Jet Airways can take stock prices to 600 levels. So, the overall structure is looking very good. I think the aviation space is also looking good. One can initiate long positions in Jet Airways for the immediate upside till 570 and 600 levels in next couple of weeks. And on downside, 530 should be the stop loss for long positions.
Vikas, what will be your view on Tata Communication that's down 2% on the back of results?
Yeah, Pankaj, the stock actually was looking good, but since the results have been bad, I think the stock has corrected. But I think any further correction of another couple of percentage points would be a good opportunity to buy into the stock. I think we could see an upside once the market stabilizes in Tata Communications again.
Right. Mayuresh, did you look at Exide numbers? In terms of revenue growth, were you, was it a positive number that markets reacted to?
Again, yes, and I think the lead prices are going to take a toll in terms of the margins, which rightfully have taken a toll in terms of the battery makers like Exide's margins. But largely, I think it's the future outlook that one is really looking at on two counts. I think the OEM as well as the replacement market looking buoyant at this point of time with the kind of expectations of volume growth on two-wheelers, four-wheelers. Largely, again, I think the automotive business should hold up. The industrial business, again, is a part of the capex spend that comes through, and capex spend was very, very muted over the last 4 to 8 quarters. But as the capex trends will start improving, the industrial side of the business for these battery makers should also show signs of improvement. The second part also is the unorganized to the organized pie, with GST getting implemented, with both Exide and Amara Raja holding a lion's share in the organized market. I think they're going to be clear beneficiaries in terms of the leverage playing positively on their balance sheets. So largely, again, I think the move has been humongous on a stock like Exide. So at this point of time, I think investors are holding on to Exide can hold on, but I think investors who want a bottom-up approach for this space, Amara Raja has clearly underperformed Exide. With the price hikes taken by Amara Raja, I think the parity in terms of the replacement pricing is probably just discounted to a fact of around 5% or even lesser. So to that extent, I think the underperformance can get validated. But largely, again, I think the kind of capex that Amara Raja has done and the expectations of improvement on the replacement front as well as the industrial front, as I mentioned, I think should have an 18% top line and bottom line growth. And valuation is probably looking far more better and attractive at this point of time compared to its own 5 to 10 year averages. So Amara Raja is something that I'll prefer on declines for long-term investors.
So you would prefer Amara Raja versus Exide?
Oh yes, at this point of time, I think looking at the parity in terms of valuations, my own sense is that if the stock does give a correction, I think it does present a good opportunity in terms of the business outlook and the environment, which looks far more robust over the next 2 years for both these battery makers. But Amara, in terms of valuations, is probably looking attractive at this point of time.
Right. What happens, when you look at these battery companies versus what's happening with tire names, some of the other auto ancillaries, do you think markets also tries to price in similar valuations, or, tires, batteries, some of the other auto ancillary industry, they have to trade at separate multiples, each one of them?
No, again, largely, Pankaj, I think what happens is a typical scenario in case of how the industry dynamics are going to poise out. So yes, I think if the argument for battery makers is going to stay that the two-wheeler, four-wheeler, the farm equipment production is going to go and the industrial production is going to go up, the same case probably works in terms of a lot of the other auto ancillaries. Tire makers, for example, I think largely plagued over the last few quarters with Chinese imports. But with the US order coming through, a lot of Chinese imports probably have got diverted to the US markets. So in that sense itself, I think rubber prices going up and the sensitivity of tire stocks in terms to earnings depend on their input costs. Input cost inflation clearly playing havoc on their margins, and expectations are that the tire companies need to put in a 6 to 7% hike to probably offset that effect. Now, when volumes start coming through and volumes start remaining consistent, the OEM part will come through, the replacement part, as they start getting stabilized and as lesser Chinese imports start hitting the Indian markets, the obvious impact would be earnings growth. So the kind of multiples that these companies enjoyed, I think they're probably trading at premium multiples over a 2-year horizon. But over the longer period of time, as the dynamics change in favor of tire companies in terms of leverage, in terms of volumes, in terms of the pricing patterns, my own sense is that the stocks can show a long-term gestation in terms of the return ratios picking up. So I think investors who can hold on to these stocks, who pick these stocks at lower levels, should clearly hold on. But even there are other players within the auto ang space. So for example, Bharat Forge, I think it's a mix in terms of the overseas and the domestic business. The Class 8, as we've seen, it has done well. The Class 7 and Class 9 truck market in the US is also expected to do well over the next few quarters. So I think it poses a huge opportunity for players like this. And though one might have translationary losses in terms of the forex headwinds, the longer term story in terms of the growth dynamic still stays. So I think staying with quality companies within the tire space like JK Tyre, for example, which is a clear play on the MHCV segment, I think becomes a very good proxy for the auto story, similar for Bharat Forge and similar for these battery makers.
Right, markets are down 27 points. That's nifty. Sensex is down about 100 points, so it's stabilizing now. But really no movement on the market, one has to say. That it's been all over the place since open. It did not open particularly that down. It went down, now it's trying to recover, so it's all over the place right now. In terms of nifty movers, you have names like IOC, BPCL, which are doing well. Coal India and India Bull Housing Finance are some of the other gainers. I'm talking about the gainers. These are losers. So Hindalco is down, ONGC is down, GAIL is down. IOC, BPCL, Coal India are the top gainer on the Nifty 50 pack. Before we let our morning guest go, just Mayuresh, let's start with you. Any disclosures?
Pankaj, all the stocks we've discussed, no personal holdings. It is possible we have discussed this with our clients, and we may be holding these stocks on behalf of our clients in our funds.
Vikas, for you?
Yeah, Pankaj, I think it would be safe to assume that the stocks which we have discussed today, my clients and my friends could have interest in them.
Sumit, for you?
Yes, Pankaj, we discussed about many stocks and especially the frontliner stocks which we have discussed on NDTV profit. We have shared the same view with our clients also. So it's better to assume that our clients might have positions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking out time for us. Always good to get a perspective.